What on earth is happening in a rugby breakdown? In this two-part series, we're going to look at the tackle and ruck laws to identify what players are trying to do, what the referees are watching for, and perhaps to give fans a little more confidence in your own understanding of the game. To make it easy, we're going to use one of the most well-known breakdowns of the modern era. If you were a rugby fan and alive in July 2025, you probably saw the Carlo Tizzano Jack Morgan breakdown. We'll go step by step, use the laws to explain the requirements of each player, and which breakdown laws are valid as the play proceeds, because they're not always in play. Now, my intention here is to educate people on the breakdown laws, but at some stage I'll probably annoy the internet with my own little verdicts on the law interpretations of that breakdown. Please be aware that I'm using the Tizzano Morgan breakdown because it's a very well-known example in the rugby world, and hopefully it draws a few clicks too. Two things to note as we go along. Number one is that the breakdown laws are progressive. They flow from tackle laws into ruck laws. You'll see what I mean soon. Number two, for a breakdown to occur, we require a tackle to be completed, which leads to Law 14.1, ball carrier brought to the ground. And this law just defines what being brought to the ground means. It is quite funny what the laws of rugby define and what they'll fail to define. I mean, Law 2 takes its time to define the ball. Anyway, we can see in our example the ball carrier is tackled to the ground. Law 14.4 defines the players in the tackle. Ball carrier, tackler and others. Here we can see the Australian player, Tizzano, is not the ball carrier or tackler, so he's others. The next section talks about the player's responsibilities, so a lot of detail for what the players must do. We're going to concentrate on others, so let's go to Law 14.8. Other players must remain on their feet, so that's Tizzano, and in 14.8c, he must arrive at the tackle from the direction of his own try line before playing the ball. At this point, I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent and discuss the gate. We'll come back to Law 14.8 in a minute, but I really want to clarify the gate. Hands up if you think the gate is relevant, and hands up if you don't know what I'm talking about when I mention the gate. So, a couple of decades ago, the laws included the concept of a gate. As a breakdown is created, two imaginary fences develop across the field. Behind the breakdown for each side, an imaginary gate would be created and every player has to enter the breakdown through their respective gate. Now, I'd suggest most players and fans understood the gate quite well and were happy with the law, but apparently it was unrefereeable. I'm unsure why, but if you know why World Rugby got rid of the gate, please do comment. In the current laws of rugby, there is no mention of the gate. There's no definition, nothing. So if anyone talks about the gate today, they're living in the past. Today, as per 14.8c, the arriving player must arrive from the direction of his or her try line. But take note that the try line is not one fixed point. It's a line across the field and forms a triangle to the breakdown. A player can actually be arriving at the tackle diagonally. This is where we see that the laws of the game are grey and can depend heavily on how referees interpret that law. Some will say you're too diagonal and others will be more lenient. Let's put this law into practice with Tizzano. Has he entered the tackle from the direction of his own try line? Let's freeze frame it. Here he's retreating with his arms in the air, signalling to the ref that he's not competing for the ball yet. He continues to retreat and doesn't compete until he plants his left foot between the ball carrier and his own try line. Then he plays the ball. Note the wording of the law, before playing the ball. Would you define Tizzano as arriving at the tackle when he's hovering with his hands in the air, or when he's playing the ball? And did he come from the direction of his own try line? Now, personally, my interpretation is that he arrives when he plays the ball. To me, retreating around the side with his hands in the air is enough to indicate to the ref he hasn't arrived at the tackle yet. I'm saying he has retreated and entered from the direction of his own try line, albeit on that diagonal. That's onside play to me, but I totally get that others do not agree. You might be asking, what about the offside line? Where's offside here? And that's when we get to Law 14.10. Offside lines are created at a tackle when at least one player is on their feet and over the ball, which is on the ground. This is the thing to remember about all tackles. It's open play with no offside lines until a player enters the tackle to compete for the ball. Tizzano, in this case, created the offside lines when he entered the tackle legally. I'm still saying he's legal. Now, before we go on, 14.11 defines how the tackle laws are ended. Most importantly for what we're working through today, 14.11a states that a tackle is over once a ruck is formed. In part 2, we'll go through the ruck laws, but hopefully you're seeing how the laws flow from tackle into ruck. Open play, player competes, creates the offside line, the next player in will be forming a ruck. Tizzano's body height. Okay, to end our laws discussion, let's cover one aspect of the post-match thoughts from some YouTubers, fans and rugby pundits that I saw. They brought up law 15.3, suggesting Tizzano's body height was too low. That law is irrelevant at this point because law 15 is pertaining to rucks. This is not a ruck yet, it's still a tackle, law 14. And law 14 is okay with Tizzano's body height. So anyone that raised law 15 to question Tizzano's legality was cherry-picking laws incorrectly. That's a little harsh, but that's kind of what people did. So in the next video, we'll see how the law defines how a tackle is transformed into a ruck, and we'll explore the Tizzano-Morgan ruck a little more. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in part 2.